And let's get into the NFL because we got a lot of gold nuggets to pass along to you. Courtesy of David Creasman and DC Creasman Jewelers. How you doing there, Ian Castleberry?
I'm doing very well. How about you guys?
Not too bad, man. It was a nice morning, Michael Gore and Ian, to kind of prep the show from the porch this morning. It wasn't too hot. It was actually nice, a little bit cool. So I'm looking forward to doing that more and more. It's just been steamy for most of August. And glad we got a little nice weather to play with. That means football season is here and upon us. So good times are on the way.
And it stopped raining, so that was nice to see, too.
No kidding. Whew, boy. All right, so here we go, guys. Ian, Cam released by the Patriots. And Belichick said Cam's COVID, quote-unquote, misunderstanding did not factor into his release. I've got to think it did, Ian. I mean, I don't know if you were listening to Colin Cowherd yesterday, but he called it out on this station yesterday. He said Belichick wants a quarterback who's dependable and knows the offense, like a Tom Brady. But I think Cam maybe fell short on both, and I think his misunderstanding with the team was enough for Belichick. How do you read into that, Ian?
Yeah, Belichick cannot say that he cut Cam Newton for refusing to get vaccinated. I mean, Urban Meyer's running into that right now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was maybe a little too candid and said, yeah, that was a factor. And then here comes the players' union saying you can't do that or you're not supposed to do that. I think it absolutely was a factor. Cam had a good preseason. I'm not sure, football-wise, if it's him picking up the offense or, Josh McDaniels. The way he praised Mac Jones, was he also kind of taking a shot at Cam Newton? If you're saying, well, Mac Jones is really well prepared, he takes care of the football, he doesn't dwell on mistakes. So is that a backhanded way of saying of criticizing Cam Newton for those things? But the vaccination problem, I think, is an issue because what if Cam Newton misses a game like he did last season? What if he causes a situation where not only he misses a game, or he could affect other teammates, cause a breakout, cause the Patriots possibly to forfeit a game? That's just not something that any coach, let alone Bill Belichick, wants to deal with. So I think Cam Newton represented uncertainty, and Bill Belichick doesn't like uncertainty, so off he goes.
Yeah, just like that, Michael. And do you think that, and Ian's right, I mean, Belichick can't come out and go, absolutely that was the reason. But do you think that was the final straw, if you will?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and again, Ian makes a great point. You can't even hint at that. It's just, I saw the headline on ESPN about what Urban Meyer said, and then I watched the quote, and well, what's the problem? It didn't really, he just kind of talked around it, and it's just common sense. And he's in trouble, So, of course, Belichick, who doesn't say much of anything anyway, except and now if he said, Cam, it's on to Cincinnati, that might have been interesting. But, no, it had to be, and he just, this never felt like a great fit to begin with, and everything with the culture they've built there. This just never felt like a great fit. And, it was, I think what happened last year is Brady really surprised the Patriots by leaving, and they just had to kind of do a wild card option. Yeah. You think the Patriots got off to kind of a decent start last year, and then when Cam had to miss the game, and I think it was at Kansas City, wasn't it, Ian? And that just seemed to seemed to throw them for a loop and everything. It kind of got them out of whack, and were pretty consistently inconsistent after that.
And what's interesting too, I remember Shoop was telling me, kind of off air, that way before Cam signed with the Patriots, and the guy that gave Shoop this information, I'm not at liberty to give his name, but he's well known in the insider business. And he said Cam to New England. I'm like, what? That makes no sense. Well, it never happened for the next several weeks. Then it hit. Cam signed with New England, and we were going, what? That didn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like Cam's personality and Belichick's personality, that seemed like oil and water, and they made it work to a point. But you just never know with Cam. As I said, he brings a glare. We'll talk about that coming up to I think, any organization for sure. And let's not forget, he's 32 years of age as well. But, most quarterbacks go into their late 30s if they remain healthy, and Cam's had a lot of injury issues, to boot. So we'll see where this one goes. And we lead this to this question, Ian, and it is tough to visualize right now a market for Cam. I mean, for me, but set me straight on this. I mean, he didn't have interest from teams before the Patriots, and surprisingly, New England signed him, okay, but I don't think he did enough to open up that market again for him. And again, as I said, too much glare for a team. Now, that could work for Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe Dallas, Ian, or what other teams are you hearing?
Well, Mike McCarthy says no, that they're not interested, that he's happy with the quarterbacks they have. Dak Prescott, of course, I'm not sure. Did they decide who the backup was? Was it?
Yeah, it's Cooper Rush.
Oh, Cooper Rush.
They cut the other two. DiNucci is on the practice squad.
Okay. So Cam could be a fit there as a backup. I think Mike said the key thing is that wherever Cam goes, he's going to be a backup. And I think that's one reason or one question the Patriots had in deciding to cut Cam. Now, one thing that we didn't point out, the Patriots aren't saving any money by cutting Cam Newton. They're still going to have to pay him.
Yeah, like
so presumably they thought he wouldn't be good as a backup. Would he be a bad influence on Mac Jones? Would he be a good influence in the locker room? I think those same questions are going to follow him to wherever he goes. I think you could make a realistic case that Cam Newton could fit with 12 NFL teams as a backup. There are plenty of teams that could use him, but is he actually a good fit? The one team that, to me, stands out among all the teams that could use a quarterback is the Houston Texans. Now, do the Texans want to deal with that? They have Tyrod Taylor. Of course, they have Deshaun Watson, although reports are, I don't know, we're going to talk about this later, that they're content to possibly not play him at all this season. But I could list, the Bengals, the Steelers, the Colts. What happens with Carson Wentz? The Dolphins, if Tua isn't reliable. You could even make a case. It's not going to happen, of course, that he could return to Carolina. They could use.
And there's been some speculation about that.
What?
There's been some speculation about that. Yeah, there has.
Part of the reason I'm not into Cam anymore is that I'm just scarred from his final 2-3 seasons in Charlotte, Ian.
Who knows how civil that was, or was it acrimonious parting? As Matt Rule, basically, did he draw the line and plant a flag saying, okay, I don't want Cam Newton around here as we're trying to rebuild. But I do think one team that intrigues me is the Arizona Cardinals. And I know they have Kyler Murray there, but maybe that's a good fit in that offense. If Murray, if they want some insurance there and Cam is willing to be a backup, I think that could be a good fit. I would be surprised if he doesn't sign with another team, but you guys have probably heard this too. Maybe there's some rumblings, and maybe this led to his departure from Carolina, that maybe he's just not quite as dedicated to football as some coaches would like. And that could be another reason why Belichick decided to move on from him. He has lots of other interests. We see this on social media with apparel companies and restaurants in the Atlanta area and so forth. So he might be at a point where he's deciding to kind of phase out and move on from football, which might be a reason that some teams stay away from him.
I kind of always got that impression, especially the final few years in Carolina, that Cam, you really used his athletic skills to not just get by, but to become an NFL MVP. But when those skills, the injury started to take over, and it's kind of like a pitcher, right? Late in his career, or you're halfway through your career, say Nolan Ryan, you got your fastball, but teams are picking up on that. So what do? Well, you develop a curveball or a screwball, some type of off-speed pitch that's effective to keep you going. And I felt like for Cam, that would be like get into the film room, study. He just never seemed to be comfortable in that Panthers offense. And I know he had an injury going on, and that's another thing that bothers me. I know people go, wow, that's awesome that, what a tough guy that he played through it. No, he hurt this team by not saying anything on that. And I will admit, as a fan, I hold that against him, Mike.
Well, to kind of relay your point, one team he's definitely not going to sign it is the Washington football team. They asked Ron Rivera about that, and he said, "Yeah, that speculation's been out there, but that's not going to happen."
Yeah.
So I think we can put that to bed. And of course, you can read between the lines there. Maybe Ron was stuck with him at Carolina, and probably one of the reasons Ron Rivera's coaching in Washington now is because of Cam's decline there at Carolina. And so, which I never understood why the Panthers fired Ron. I think Ron Rivera is an excellent coach. So anyway, but.
You're right. That's a big red flag. If Cam was going to sign with the Washington football team, why wouldn't he have done so last year?
Yeah, because the coaches that he's been with, Rivera and now Belichick, I mean, that's to me, that's the red flag, man. If those guys are saying, this isn't working for us, and they're two pretty no nonsense guys, I think that speaks volumes there. But we'll wait and see. There's always a home for someone like Cam, and we'll just stand by and see where that home is going to be. Meanwhile, guys, Raiders GM Mike Mayock said his team is ready to break its 4-year playoff drought. And no pressure on John Gruden there, whose teams have not performed, by the way, to expectations since John signed his 10-year, $10 million a year contract. Ian, do you see the Raiders as a playoff team, especially coming out of that AFC West division?
I like Mike Mayock a lot as a football analyst. I thought he did a great job on NFL Network. I don't like him so far as a general manager, and this is, year 3 with him and John Gruden, and they've been thoroughly mediocre, 7-9. 8-8 last season. I do not think the Raiders are a playoff team. If you look at the AFC West, obviously the Kansas City Chiefs are far above the rest of the competition, a Super Bowl contender. But I think you got to look at the Chargers. With Justin Herbert coming off an outstanding rookie season, if their defense comes around, I think the Chargers could be really strong. What about the Broncos? The Broncos have a great defense. If Teddy Bridgewater, I know he didn't do great last season in Carolina, but if he brings some stability to the quarterback position in Denver, I think you can look at Denver as a possible playoff contender. So where does that leave the Raiders? Their defense stinks. Maybe their offense will be good with Derek Carr, and they'll have Henry Ruggs, the third back, maybe having a big year, but I just don't see the Raiders being able to compete with the other 3 teams in the AFC West.
Yeah, I don't either, Mike. I think they'll be finishing last in that division, depending on how Bridgewater and the Broncos do. I still like Teddy Bridgewater, and I think he can do really good things for Denver, at least, manage that offense.
I have to wonder about John Gruden last year, and going to appreciate this because you brought this up a few weeks ago talking about the Bills and when he said in the preseason, there's lots of things I liked about Nathan Peterman.
Yeah. He's the back. Is he the backup?
I mean, he was. I don't know if he still is and stuff, but I thought, what? Like, you said what? Because Nathan, of course, is
5 interceptions
in one half in his debut against the Chargers a couple years ago. So, Bills thankfully overcame that, but I'll never forget when I saw John Gruden said that. I thought, well, maybe John's not quite the genius everyone thought he is.
Apparently not. Well, again, wait and see where this all plays out as Ian Castleberry joins the Wise Guys presented by David Kreisman and DC Kreisman Jewelers. It is our NFL Gold Nuggets feature for this Thursday. And there are mixed reports about Deshaun Watson to Miami. Ian, one report says owner Stephen Ross, head coach Brian Flores are against it. Flores actually came out publicly to say that Tua is his QB, but another report said, well, that could change down the road. Had no pressure on Tua as if he's had to deal with enough here, Ian. But do you think Watson at some point ends up in South Beach?
I think he does. It might not be this season. I mean, we're already week ones. Next weekend, it's too late to work Watson in to the Dolphins offense. But there are reports out of Houston that the Texans haven't come out and said this, but reportedly they are willing to sit Deshaun Watson for this entire season because his contract extension has not kicked in yet. He does have that big 4-year, $156 million extension, but that starts next year, I believe. So they could sit him down and just not play him and wait to see what happens with all of the legal troubles, which I still think is going to prevent the Texans from trading Watson. Until a team knows for sure that they're going to get out from under all that, no team's going to give up what the Texans are asking for if suddenly Watson isn't able to play. So I think we're looking at kind of a 1-year process, which could be great for talk radio, right? Speculating about what Deshaun Watson is going to do. But I think that also gives the Dolphins time to decide, do they really want to give up what the Texans are reportedly asking for, which is 3 first-round draft picks and 2 second-rounders?
Wow.
Just an enormous package. I mean, Watson could be worth it. He all things considered, he's probably a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, but that gives the Dolphins a year to decide whether or not Tua really is the guy. And if he turns out to be, and Brian Flores is confident in him, then all of a sudden, okay, all right, we're not interested in Deshaun Watson, and the Texans have to go elsewhere.
Yeah, really, this is like this could be the year for Tua truly to prove himself to the coaches, to the fan base as well, Mike. So we'll wait and see on this one. Deshaun is tremendously talented, but a lot of legalities hanging over his head, man. That's a lot. That's a lot to try and just like compartmentalize. You know what I mean? It's like it's tough to put that aside.
What a difference 2 years makes. Just if we could have looked into our crystal ball and said that the Dolphins who were tanking for Tua, that was the saying, in Flores' first year, we're tanking for Tua, and they got Tua, and they didn't get, and it wasn't the number 1 draft pick. They got him a little bit later on there, and now, well, I'm not sure Tua can win us a championship. We can win 10 games, which 2 years ago the Dolphins would have taken in a heartbeat because they were so bad early in the seasons before kind of playing a little better toward the end of the year. But Ian, isn't this kind of shocking the way this has gone from everybody in the world wanting Tua to now, I don't know.
It is strange. I mean, of course, that injury that he suffered with the hip, I think there is some question as to whether or not he has the durability to make it through a full NFL season. He's a little on the small side compared to some of the elite quarterbacks. But you're right. I mean, 2 years ago, Tua was the guy. Tank for Tua. It is surprising that the Dolphins would do this when they have Tua fall into their lap like this. I mean, Deshaun Watson is unquestionably a better quarterback, especially right now, than Tua Tagovailoa. And to bring in Deshaun Watson and pay him that contract kind of goes against the way NFL teams are running their business right now. Like the smart move, and the way a lot of teams are doing this, is to bring in a young quarterback on his rookie deal. And you have Tua for 3-4 seasons, maybe 5 if you pick up that option, at a lower salary, and you build, and hopefully by year 4, maybe year 5, you have a Super Bowl contender with a quarterback who doesn't cost a lot of money. That, of course, getting Deshaun Watson would change all of that.
Yeah, I mean, remember, we were like last year, Watson, the Panthers are interested? Oh, this is awesome. This is great, man. Let's see this. Uh-oh, here come the lawsuits. And we all just like went back to, just retreat. Ian Castleberry on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines, NFL Gold Nuggets presented by David and the staff at DC Creasman Jewelers at 269 Tono Road. Ian, which players were you surprised to see get cut as teams trimmed it to their 53-person roster?
There were quite a few wide receivers that I was surprised to get cut. As a Detroit Lions fan, I can't believe they cut Rashad Perriman. I mean, they don't have that many good wide receivers, and Perriman coming off a good season last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm really surprised. They don't really have a deep threat, and they need some guys for Jared Goff. I'm really surprised the Lions cut him. The Eagles cut Travis Fulgham. There's another guy that I was surprised to see cut. John Brown, who I'm curious what Mike Gore has to say about this, but John Brown was another guy I was a little bit surprised to see get the cut. And then there are a couple of offensive tackles. I think Russell Okung by the Panthers, that was a surprise to me, and Mitchell Schwartz getting cut by the Chiefs. So yeah, wide receivers, offensive linemen were among the most surprising cuts for me.
Man.
Yeah, I was surprised too, but actually John Brown asked to be cut. So, the Bills, hated to let him go in a situation where he's making a lot of money, and also he has some injuries. He has some injury problems, and I think that was really the end game there was they just weren't sure he could stay healthy, and so I wonder if that had something to do with it. But
why did he want to leave? Why did he make that request?
I don't know. I haven't I've looked that up, and I haven't been able to find an answer yet. But he has to be cut, so maybe it just didn't work there. Maybe him and Nathan Peterman couldn't quite get on the same page, and.
Mike Gore. All right. Oh, speaking of former Bill, Nathan Peterman, let's get to it, gentlemen.
The Bills make me wanna shout, kick your heels up and shout, throw your hands up and shout, throw your head back and shout. Come on now, the Bills are making it happen now. Stand up now, come on and and shout.
All right, here we go. It's the Mike Orr Bills takeover question, and we're actually going to be kind of on the field, but not player-wise. So here we go, Ian. Buffalo could have a new 60,000-seat stadium with 60 suites. This could be happening by 2027. Well, we'll start with you, Michael Gore. Are you on board with this?
Yes, that's an old stadium built in 1973. It's 47 years old, and it's they've done some renovations, but it's not doing great. It's not doing great. I mean, is it? I don't think anything's going to collapse, but it's too costly. I think it's a good compromise, and they're going to build it right next door to the current stadium. So yes, I think this is a good compromise, and it seems like we're not hearing about the Austin Bills anymore. So I think both sides are getting ready to compromise, and hopefully things can be worked out. But the Bills need a new stadium.
Yeah, and Ian, obviously, taxpayers, that's a big issue here. So it seems to me like maybe the taxpayers / fan base are going to be on board for this.
Yeah, I mean, I assume they don't want to lose the Bills, and ownership hasn't, exactly held that over their heads. And maybe there will be some sort of compromise, that the team paying for some and taxpayers paying for another part of the stadium. I like the idea that they're reducing capacity a little bit. 12,000 seats, I think they're reduced to make it 60,000. That sounds like a good number to me, and I'm also glad that they're not talking about making an indoor stadium or a retractable roof, but it sounds like they're also kind of design it maybe like the way the Seahawks stadium is built, where they have, most of the seats are kind of underneath almost an awning that will protect fans from the elements when it's snowing out there. But
yeah, the few times that does happen. The once every couple of years that does happen.
Yeah, sure. It never it never rains in Southern California, right? It never snows in Buffalo, New York.
I didn't say
that.
Mike
said it. The Bills need a new stadium. Period.
Yeah. Rich Stadium and New Era Stadium. Now, is it New Era still, Michael?
No, it's not. It's Highmark Stadium now.
Okay.
It was Bill's Stadium there, but now Highmark, which I think is a medical company out
okay.
But yes, interesting. The Bills were I think the first to go with a corporate name, Rich Stadium. They were the first one, and then everybody else followed them. And then when they kind of refinanced or kind of redid it back in '98, they went from Rich Stadium to Ralph Wilson Stadium, which of course named after the owner that Erie County, where Buffalo is, wanted to honor him, which was nice, but it cost the Bills some money. It's tough as far as that goes. But anyway, hopefully this is a good plan and things will work out, and the Bills have a new stadium here in a few years, and Patrick, I can take you up there.
I'd love that. Bucket list. Lambeau Field and Buffalo. Just give me snow and football. I'll be all about it. Ian Castleberry, you rock, my friend. Have a great rest of the week, though, buddy. And
okay, sounds great. You guys enjoy your Labor Day weekend.
Hey, you too, pal. Thank you. One of the good ones right there. Boy, he's got it together. Ian Castleberry with the Wise Guys on the DC Creasman Jewelers Wise Lines. Thanks to DC for bringing us Ian today and our NFL Gold Nuggets feature.